WNST. Ready for your pumpkin pie and your apple pie and maybe sizing up the turkey for next week. Finally, the Orioles are going to have someone running their team, and it comes along right at the point where the Ravens season is very much on the brink. Bill Cole joins us now from Cole Roofing, and Billy is usually my Dr. Melfi. I might be your Dr. Melfi this week, right? You're all fired up about social media. We got the Orioles, we got the Ravens. Clearly, this week, a big sports week around here in November all of a sudden, right?
Yeah, it wouldn't be the first time where you've had to walk me back off the ledge. I think we mutually take turns trying to help each other with that. But
well, I'm caffeinated today, man. I'm drinking some Oriole Farms coffee out of the Cole Roofing mug here. I'm ready to help you with all your needs. How can I help you today?
Well, explain to me why I should believe that we're going to get some young rock star GM. I'm not sure on what planet I believe that. And then even if I do believe that, do I really think that he's going to actually be able to do anything, or is, what is this maneuver?
Okay, job number one here, and everyone I've talked to, and Jason Lockenfora and I had a rather meaty debate about this earlier in the week, and the notion that so you run Cole Roofing now, right? Are you the third or fourth person to run your family's company? Your company's been there 99 years, right? So at some point, some Cole did something in 1938 to piss somebody off, right? That had a difference with somebody. I don't know that you can be blamed for that in 2018. I should say 1918, 2018. So I don't know that, and I keep going back to Rocky Wirtz and the way the Blackhawks have been run, the way Hal Steinbrenner has run the Yankees, which is different than George Steinbrenner. I only know these kids are going to do this differently. That doesn't mean that it's going to be better, but dude, I don't know how it could be any worse. I mean, it's kind of like how the country's being run right now. Like I don't know much, but I know this is as bad as it can be done. I know there are many other ways to do it, but for the Orioles, I can't think of anything that's been worse for our city, for the baseball franchise, for my love of baseball, your love of baseball, my friend, than Peter Angelos. Now, how these kids could be worse than that, I don't know. I don't love what I've seen the last 90 days, right? Neither do you. Allowing Dan Duquette to sell off the farm and then fire him. Not really knowing what direction they're going in. Taking an extra 2 weeks to find a general manager when they should have been doing this stuff back in July and August and September. So I don't think any of this breeds confidence in me. But I am willing to, as Brian Billick, our partner here on behalf of the Living Classrooms Foundation, once said about Scott Mitchell, and all of us erroneously believed in, I'm willing to take some level of leap of faith that, first off, Mike Elias is a legitimate guy. I don't know how to pronounce his Kemosabe's name, so I don't want to pronounce it inaccurately or incorrectly, especially for a guy who ran NASA's stuff for a period of time down at Houston. His whole background comes on that side, but it's Sigmejdal. I think that's how it's pronounced, Sigmejdal. There's a book called Astroball, Billy, written by Ben Reiter, who was the guy who wrote the Sports Illustrated cover piece in 2014 that said they would win the World Series in 2017, and they did. There's a whole legend of Mike Elias and Jeff Luhnow and everything that's going on in Houston that now will be bringing itself to the warehouse, and that unto itself becomes interesting because this isn't some guy they found in the Cape Cod Penal League. This isn't some loudmouth that they brought in from ESPN that no one else wanted to hire and had this weird thing that everywhere he left, they won the World Series the next year. This is different, and this is a little more new age, and I'm buying in. I'm sold on this for the legitimacy of it. You know what I mean? A legitimate baseball genius, a Yale, 13 years in the big leagues, is going to bring a NASA physicist chief of stuff I don't even understand, astrophysics, literally, to the Orioles. That gets my attention for the next 36 months more than a dying owner that never comes out of the hole and never accounts for anything. This is interesting. It's a new direction.
So understanding that the overarching memory for me that sets the entire perception of the Orioles is when you devalue your franchise and out of desperation you invite kids to come for free, like as good-spirited as that is, that says a lot about what you think about your product. So that's kind of the thing that never goes away from me.
So what you're saying is you don't do roofs for free, and I don't do advertising for free. The free plug thing, I mean, I get it. Believe me, I get it. I've been doing this as long as you've been doing it. When you're giving it away for free, it then becomes worth nothing, right?
Well, if you're winning and you're great and you want to do that, that sends a whole different message than when no one's at the ballpark and you do it. That's a move of
I'm just wondering where the leadership is. I mean, I keep and this is nice that these nerds are going to go into a cave, which is what they are. They're nerds in a cave doing analytics. They are not selling tickets. Anything they're going to do to make the baseball team better will not really appear until 2021 or 22 based on how this pregnancy of the elephant works in baseball, literally, right? For the way that they want to rebuild this from scratch, which is 115 losses and a decimated minor league system. And they have a blank canvas here to come in. But to your point, the two kids are still running the business, and there needs to be a business mind about Baltimore business and local marketing and making fans and making people like you and me want to come back and give them money again when we haven't done that in so long. You know what I mean? Like Dennis and I sit here every week and talk. He makes fun of them like they're never going to get my money. I remember when I felt that way when they threw me out 12 years ago. People called me a bad citizen, right? Like I'm a bad citizen because I'm not giving my money to Peter Angelos, which is in turn not making the city better, which I've seen all of that happen. But I do believe that at some point the team's either going to rot so bad that it leaves Baltimore. And if you gave me $1 right now, Bill, and said over the next 10 years what's going to happen to this franchise, I would bet on it being in Nashville. Because I don't know where all the Bills and Nestors and Dennises and Under Armours and anybody else is coming to fund this team without anything coming from south of Bowie anymore. Literally, right? So I am very worried about their business, which goes back to what you said. Free kids are free. Yeah. Well, okay, now show me a business model around that.
Right. I'm not worried about them leaving because we rally at the point of crisis like no other city, I think. So, we would prevent that from happening.
You'd have to like them to rally, and I don't think there's enough people to like them enough.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it would just be
what rally means? Rally means you go into your wallet. Rally doesn't mean we go out there on dollar night, literally. Rally means 48,000 people would come out there at $22 a pop to sit in Section 386 to watch the White Sox on a Tuesday night, who are 63 and 84, and the Orioles are worse. Dude, you're asking a lot. I mean, you really are. I mean, the T-shirts and the bobbleheads are all that draws at this point.
Yeah, the Orioles are institutional to Baltimore. So, I mean...
So are the Colts.
We could
so are the Bullets.
We could choose to spend time worrying about that. I think there's other stuff maybe that's more interesting. But the idea that we wouldn't allow that to happen. Here's my thing with the new guy. Like, I'm a believer in the data, and I like the concept that we're going to collect and analyze data better than anybody else, which makes us smarter, which means that we'll make more decisions right at a higher percentage than our competition will.
By the way, Sig Majal was a blackjack dealer. Like literally, what you do on 16 and 17 when you and I are in the casino is based a little on emotion, right? But anyone would tell you there's a book, play the book, right? Always play the book. That's how you win in Vegas, allegedly, if you can win in Vegas, right? That's who these guys are. So that's the way the thing's going to be run. It's going to be run by astrophysicist nerds who are going to analytically run the franchise from moving forward, as opposed to the old man giving Chris Davis money because he likes him, or the old man going to having dinner at Boccaccio with Brady Anderson, or the old man having a bone about Mike Messina and deciding he didn't want him around anymore, or the old man having whatever parade of Mike Flanagan's, Rick Dempsey's, Sam Perlazzo's, Sid Thrift's, Mike Bordick's running up to the office to tell him whatever he wants to hear. I mean, this place has been a disaster for 25 years. So to think that these guys are actually going to do it with some science, I'll hear that all day long. Now, how are they going to sell tickets and how are they going to sell enthusiasm, which I keep going back to the marketing side of this, more than the baseball side, because I think if you bring these guys in, and more than that, Billy, you mentioned all the parts you like about this. You know what I really like about this? They have a pelt on the wall and a format that began in St. Louis in 2005 that was so effective, Bill, and you want to Google this, that the Cardinals stole their information when they went to Houston. Literally the feds got involved, right? So Google the Cardinals, Houston Astros file stealing in the modern era. These guys were so good that they were stolen from in the industry.
So explain this one to me, right? My sense of the NFL is that they've been using data for a long time.
Sure.
And, it ends up resulting in things like Ryan Leaf and, all these misses. So do they miss and why not? Or is it just so different that it doesn't even matter? Or are they ahead of the curve and they're measuring the 40 speed of their players before, the rest of the teams are? And when the rest of the teams realize, we should be measuring the 40 speed of these guys, then all of a sudden it's a level playing field and your advantage in the data goes away. And now you're back to taking a hunch on a guy that you just think's a grinder and he's got heart and he'll win games for us.
Well, look, if you're really interested in this, and I know you are because you like the deeper dive on all of this, Ben Reiter wrote a book called Astro Ball, The New Way to Win It All, okay? So this book came out this summer. And I had Ben on earlier, and I'm going to probably go back and revisit this and track him down and grab him at some point in the next week or two if I can get him on. And he wrote about how the strategy of, here it is, inside story of how a gang of outsiders went beyond the stats to find a new way to win, and not just in baseball. When new Astros general manager Jeff Luhnow and his top analyst, the former rocket scientist Sig Majal, arrived in Houston in 2011, they had already spent more than half a decade trying to understand how human instinct and expertise could be blended with hard numbers such as on-base percentage and strikeout rate to guide their decision-making. In Houston, they had free rein to remake the club. No longer would scouts with all their subjective, hard-to-quantify opinions be forced into oppositions with the stats guys. Instead, Luhnow and Sig wanted to correct the biases inherent in human observation and then roll their scouts' critical thoughts into their process. The numbers had value, but so did the gut. The strategy paid off brilliantly and surprisingly quickly. It pointed the Astros toward key draft picks like Carlos Correa and Alex Bregman, offered a path for developing George Springer, Jose Altuve, and Dallas Keuchel, and showed them how veterans like Carlos Beltran and Justin Verlander represented the last piece in the puzzle of fielding a championship team. Sounds like a purple book I wrote, on the value of drafting Ray Lewis and John Ogden on day one, straight on through the value of drafting Joe Flacco and firing Brian Billick and hiring John Harbaugh. It's a story on how to do this and how to do it successfully, right? Well, at least all of these cats come from a place where they just did it last year, and somehow this situation in the American League East against the Red Sox and Yankees is appealing to these guys who've already done it once and want to try to do it again. I'll start to write that book. That sounds better than writing the Peter Principles for me, Bill Cole.
Well, I guess if you start from the basis of there's only one way to go at this point, and if you're a young guy looking to make your mark, you'd be hard pressed to find another place to do it. I guess
the Yankees don't need you.
Right. That's what I mean. Somebody must have showed him the nice parts of town, and they took him around, and I mean, hey, maybe we're really lucky. Maybe they looked at the players that we already have and the ones that we acquired in the dumping of everybody, and maybe there's a couple pieces already there, and they can, he believes he can win sooner rather than later. I mean, look, we have no reason to not want it to work, right? Like, this is terrible and boring, and it would be much more fun if, they were winning.
Dude, I'm wearing a Free the Birds hat right now. It's not because I don't care, literally, you know what I mean? Like, I've been on this for 25 years. Just because it says Angelos on the door, and I wrote this to these kids 3 months ago, doesn't mean that I don't believe these guys can be better at it than their old man was. To your point, I don't know how it could be any worse. I mean, it's scorched as a civic entity. It's scorched from an integrity standpoint of, go ahead and put your punchline joke in about whether or not this guy Elias is actually going to get here, right? I mean, the punchline is he has to pass the physical first, right? I mean, like, in order to come run the franchise. That's how bad this thing is. And the difference here, Billy, is that the Washington money isn't coming back. And behind all of this, by the way, Bill Cole Roofing, our dear friend here, join us, 99 years. When exactly are you going to celebrate 100? When is that? I want to circle that in my calendar so we can.
All next year. Like every day, 365. It's just one big.
I can't drink that much or eat that much. That's too much celebrating for me. I need a night
I
could do a bender.
I could do a whole bunch of roofing.
Dude, I could do 3 days in Ocean City or something, but I can't do any more than like a long weekend.
Yeah, you and me both.
Cole Roofing's been 99 years. Bill's been my friend for a long, long time. He's one of our great sponsors. If you need corporate roofing, commercial roof space, you got a leak, you got any of that thing going on, hit Bill. But we're talking baseball because it's been, my God, we're 20 minutes in. We haven't even talked about Joe Flacco or Lamar Jackson. It's amazing how the Orioles could tilt this week in a conversation where they do something that is fascinating, right? Like, this is a fascinating thing for business people to sit around and talk about. How do the Orioles resurrect the business of baseball in our town? What does it mean to me and my sports radio station? What does it mean to the Sheraton and the Hyatt and the Renaissance and the restaurants downtown? All of that matters for the community if the baseball team can be better. And I believe that in 2006 when I made this hat, which still fits, by the way. And I believe that today, Bill.
You read it all with a bit of skepticism just because it does have sort of that underlying hope in it. It's like, oh, okay, look, this, and wait a second, this guy actually wants to come here? Hold on, this could be complete. This could completely change the trajectory of what we've been enduring. So even
what do you mean competence, right? Like, literally, having competent people.
Even when Buck came in and we had this little, upstart run and there was playoffs in there, like, even that wasn't really different. That seemed like just pure force, right? Like, Buck was going to coach him up and they were going to grind it out, and we hit a couple and, we got a couple pitchers and we caught a little bit of lightning in a bottle, but it was still the dumb stuff in the background. And, I don't know that these guys, I mean, coming from the data standpoint, I don't think you have a general manager who's going to go out in front of the media and become a darling and bring everybody back from that regard. But maybe, I mean, I've never seen the guy do an interview or talk, or, maybe he is very personable, and maybe now you start your love affair with the general manager, and then he brings in a manager that is in the same ilk, and I mean, that guy, if you're going to play the data game, then your manager is going to be required to play the data game as well.
Yeah, your manager is going to make $610,000 a year and be some guy that sits in the dugout that does whatever you tell him to do, and that goes back to Moneyball, right? Like, I mean, this is not a new concept. This is a 2-decade-old concept that Billy Beane instituted. They've made books and movies about, since then. Right. That this is the way the game will be played in 2020 with, right fielders lined up in center field and shortstops lined up in right field based on Chris Davis not being able to hit the baseball in a certain direction, and based on how your pitchers pitch and situational baseball. Everything's a situational play now. And, yeah, I don't expect the manager to be a guy that they have up on the side of the warehouse helping him sell tickets. But at some point, dude, something has to help him sell tickets. Something needs to sell enthusiasm.
Maybe the manager, because you've taken their skill as a in-game manager off the table, and really we're going to rely on the data to tell us what moves to make, then my group of people that I can pick from gets broader, and really I'm looking for the sweetheart darling that is going to woo the public, at the same time instill confidence in my players, keep a great locker room going. So not having to worry about whether to pull the relief pitcher in or whether to send a pinch hitter up, because it's in the book and you just got to do what it says. And you can actually have a bench coach who is the one that actually follows the book, and all you got to do is sit there and clap and cheer and root your players on. Maybe you do have a chance to get a guy that we can fall in love with.
Well, the other part of it is, analytically, when you say to a 23-year-old kid, whether it's a Dominican kid, a Korean kid, Japanese kid, or a kid from Palm Springs or, Pigs Knuckle, Arkansas, right, black, white, it doesn't matter. When you say you're not in the batter's box right now because the book says Joe over here has a better chance of getting a hit off this left-hander, and that's the way we play it, then it doesn't become so he doesn't like me, or I'm in his doghouse, or whatever those emotions are. Bill Cole from Cole Roofing here. By the way, I want to pull the conversation in the other direction right now, based on your management and your company in 99 years, and one of the things we talk about, and we met through the business space. This business decision now goes to the Ravens this week too, right? This is where John Harbaugh comes in, and who's going to be the next head coach, and how's Eric DeCosta going to hire, and who's going to be the quarterback, and how's Steve going to couch this, and whether they're going to beat Cincinnati this week, and how Lamar Jackson's going to be used, and what the analytics of Lamar Jackson on the field and picking up 4.95 yards versus 3.6 yards when Flacco's handing the ball off to Alex Collins. All of that data now goes into the hopper football-wise, and there's probably going to be a new sheriff in town football-wise here soon, if we're reading the tea leaves in every direction of the mutual parting and all the stuff we're hearing for a 4-5 football team during bye week. The next head coach of the Ravens then also becomes someone that they put out in front to recruit the community, right? I mean, Buck... better than Earl Weaver, better than anybody ever as an Oriole manager, recruited the community.
Yeah, but I think that was because we just were looking for anyone, right? He had good characteristics for it.
Dave Tremblay didn't want to make you come out to the ballpark if you watched the post game there. He wasn't helping sell the game.
Yeah, agreed. Look, the Ravens, I would think that Eric DeCosta is very much doing his homework and trying to figure out a couple different scenarios and what actions they should take. And he meets with Bisciotti and they talk through the different scenarios and they spend a little bit of time on that. But, the NFL is one of these things where we come out this week and all of a sudden we get back whatever we had in September, and we start playing better. Joe's accurate, doesn't give the ball to the other team. The line seems to, we get a little bit healthy this week. It's just the NFL is so fickle that I don't think head coaches have the ability to spend any time worrying about that stuff. What's the point, right? And I think I saw you post something earlier this week about, it's not Bisciotti style, and it devalues the brand to dump your head coach in the middle. And I totally agree that
you do agree with that.
That's not even an option. Oh, that's not even an option. It 100% devalues your brand.
And it really upends every desk in your building, literally, right? Like you want people diving under, you want somebody game planning 2 weeks from now, or you want them looking for their next job. You know what I mean?
Well, your customers paid money. Your customers paid money, and in the middle of the season, you're going to say, well, thanks for your money. We're not really going to try hard. We need to get rid of this guy, and it needs to happen now.
And we need to draft 6th and not 14th this year.
Yeah, I haven't seen anybody spin that in a way where, as a customer, you would feel like, oh, phew, thank gosh they did that. Now we're going to be better, and I can't wait to go to the game. That never happens. I mean, teams that fire their head coach in the middle of the season, like, half the people just don't even come anymore, and they start giving their tickets away. I mean, that's like, you're already in the, your team is already a mess.
Well, I mean, we saw, and Steve's really affected by the noise. You know what I mean? Like, Mike Preston helped to get Brian Billick fired, starting noise that Bisciotti heard and his own instincts inside the building. And this is what Bisciotti does. He will be very involved in whoever the head coach will be. I mean, he and John have a bromance. I mean, it's not... That's well known. You know what I mean? Like that, and Steve had a bromance with Ray Lewis and various players and obviously Gary Williams. You know what I mean? Steve is prone to that. He did not have a bromance with Brian Billick. Still doesn't, quite frankly. I have a bromance with Brian Billick. He doesn't. It is amazing how people fall in and fall out, but Bisciotti's going to have to be in love with the next head coach in order for him to be the next head coach, and I think that does play a role in where they are right now, because this is the first time in a long time that I'm sure everybody's thinking about it. And John Harbaugh's talking to Ingrid about Miami or Green Bay or Dallas or wherever the next opportunity is going to be. Notre Dame, I don't know. Who knows where that job will be. But I think John's even resigned to this at this point now. What that means to beating Cincinnati this week, I think they're going to go out and give it the college effort, however Flacco's hip is and whatever. But this is certainly not... There are a lot of dark clouds over the Ravens right now in regard to 11th year head coach, 11th year quarterback, 16th year rush edge, 13th year safeties and guards that are in the halls of very good, and where this thing would go if they lose this week. The teardown will begin whether Harbaugh's going to coach the team next year or not, because that's just the way this goes when you're 4-6, I think.
Yeah, I am strangely curious about the Flacco injury.
Everybody is, and I'm not. I saw him limp around. I don't think Joe would ever stand in front of me and fake or anybody and say, I'm hurt when he's not hurt. If he's scratched on Sunday, doesn't play, and isn't hurt, there's no way a guy like me is not going to find out about it, because that would really strike at Joe's mojo. I think Joe will be doing everything he could do to get out on the field on Sunday, because he needs to play, but he doesn't want to go out and not play well. And I don't know where he is in his career. I don't know that at the end of the year he won't say, I have $125 million and a relatively healthy body and 5 kids and a pelt, and maybe he's done. I don't know. Maybe he says, I'm going to take a 4-year deal and go to Miami, and I'm going to go down there and win. But I don't know. I don't know where Joe is, and I don't know how bad his hip hurts right now, and I don't know. I know he wanted to win 6 weeks ago. I know he looked good enough to win 6 weeks ago. So did the rest of the team. The team doesn't look good enough to win right now, Bill. That's really the issue.
Yeah, and I get worried about the levels of injury, right, and the levels of hurt, and if DaCosta or other powers to be inside the organization want to really find out, they kind of already have made their choice, but if you want to find out, throw the kid out there and cover it with this thing with Joe, just so that next week you can trot Joe back out there and we can keep playing.
As opposed to the deballing of Eli Manning last year and the disgrace of that, and then he's their quarterback again this year, right?
Yeah. That was so poorly handled. You don't really want to do that. And, you got a lot of questions. I think they believe in the guy. He's got the physical stuff. It's great. I don't know. And really, honestly, if you're going to rebuild, you probably got a year or two for him to learn and figure stuff out, and maybe he'll be fine. But you got to kind of at least be curious, right? You got to want to know what would this kid do with a 4-quarter game. And yeah, to your point, maybe Joe isn't the primary reason that we look a mess, but he isn't able to overcome the mess that we are. And
well, he's also culpable in 5 out of 6 years and making $125 million and hadn't been in the playoffs. So he's keenly aware of that as well. Yeah, and certainly looked good enough to be that guy 4 weeks ago with one hip and an offensive line in flux and no running game, and we're down on the goal line, and Joe, go stand over there like a Canadian goose, and we're going to bring the kid that we drafted to replace you in, and you run around and pretend you're a wide receiver on the JV squad. It's every part of this is weird, but somehow Drew Brees is making it work. But I don't think Drew Brees thinks Taysom Hill is, been anointed to lead the Saints to the promised land as the next Archie Manning or whatever, right?
Yeah, a different level player. I may have been willing to argue that at some point in Joe's career, but I am not willing to argue that now. I mean, Drew Brees is a totally different player and a totally different level than Joe has ever been. Joe falls more into the able to be competent level as opposed to the Hall of Fame level. So, it's very curious. You have to have some wonder about Lamar and whether he could just single-handedly spark the team to kind of turn the momentum, and whether there's enough guys in the locker room who are tired of the Joe show and, we want to play for him. I mean, I don't hear any of that stuff. I don't know whether I
don't think there's a wide receiver out there that would rather have Lamar throwing the ball to them with confidence that it's going to get exactly where it's supposed to get, and everything's going to be. He's going to read everything right, make the best. All of the things that need to happen, in an old school quarterback and an old school offense, because that's not what Lamar Jackson's going to be in this RPO offense. That's some of the time that's going to have to happen. With Flacco, it has to happen all the time when they're not running the ball. And Flacco throws the ball so much better than Lamar Jackson in being able to make these throws that if that's the way you want to run the offense, Joe Flacco's the right guy for that. If he's healthy and you have blocking and you have a running game, if all the things you were saying back in September that they had or appeared to have that night against Pittsburgh, maybe they had that day against Nashville, but haven't had recently, that part of that has to come back in order for this to work. Otherwise, if you really believe Lamar Jackson out there running around 3 plays at a time at some point is going to break free and get you 28 yards and then come in and make a throw down the field that, wakes everybody up for a 30-yard gain to a tight end or whatever, if you think that you're going to see that the next couple of weeks, then Go try to see it, but I don't think there's anybody in the building that believes over 60 snaps in a game that Lamar Jackson is going to give them a better chance to win than a healthy Joe Flacco, in any case with the offensive line or running game. Right.
Well, I mean, I think, honestly, as far as I'm concerned, it starts with playing some defense. Like, can we just play some defense? Like, I don't know what happened.
Right.
I can't figure it out. I don't see any players different. Like, we were... But this is true on both sides of the ball. We were winning the strategy and the adjustments. Like the strategy in the beginning of the game, we seemed to have an advantage. Like we scouted better and we came up with a good game plan. And then at halftime, we made adjustments that in the second half let us win over the teams we were playing. All of a sudden you've got lots of confidence in the OC and the DC, and it's like, yeah, okay. Not only do we have players who are performing, but we've got guys giving them plays that they can run effectively. All of that is gone. like the whole thing just evaporated in the course of 3 weeks.
Well, I mean, when you don't have perimeter players that can run in the middle of the secondary at this point, more, stuff the run. Now it's stop the pass, and not going to be able to blame A.J. Green this week at least. Bill Cole is here. He is Cole Roofing. Tell everybody what you do, and then I'll let you get back to doing it.
Sure. Cole Roofing's been around since 1919. Doing commercial roofing, so everything from emergency leak with all the weather we've got coming and have had for the past year. We've certainly done plenty of that. And then we do roof replacements on commercial buildings as well as schools and shopping centers and things like that. We have custom metal work that we do, wall panels, pretty much anything that deals with the envelope of your building. I've been doing it a long time, care about our customers and our community a lot. Have a really great team that looks to advance the ball every day. So it's fun to talk sports with you, but yeah, I do have to actually do some work at some point.
Go back and get on some roofs, and I'll get back onto the horse here of the Cincinnati Bengals and the new GM or apparent GM, pending physical, Mike Elias of the Houston Astros. Great to have you aboard, Bill.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks.
You got it, Bill Cole, Roofing. You can find me, Nasty, at WNST.net. We're up in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device. The kids call it podcasting. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.